Welcome back to Trivia Cast. I'm your host Nikhil, and I am finally back after I think about 2 months or so. It's been pretty crazy. I had a couple of international trips, one for work and then one for vacation, and also moved into a new apartment. So it's been a crazy couple of months, but I'm excited to be back, and I've got a very special guest. We actually recorded this episode back in May, I believe. So apologies to Liz for taking so long to get this up. But I hope you do enjoy, and I hope as always that you can learn something from the episode. So let's go ahead and jump in. So yeah, today I've got Liz joining me. So how's it going, Liz?
It's good. How are you?
Glad to have you. So could you give us a bit about your background?
Totally. So I am a liveaboard sailor currently, living on a sailboat and sailing around the world, or the ultimate goal is to sail around the world. I live on this boat with my boyfriend and my dog, and we're currently in Panama, on the Caribbean side of Panama. And we sailed there from our home in California, which we left almost 2 years ago. Now we sort of just cut ties and gave everything up and got on this boat and sailed down the Pacific coast. And then, we went through the Panama Canal at the beginning of this year, and we are now in the Caribbean. I work as a freelance writer, and I'm also an indie author. So I've been writing books, like sci-fi books, kind of based on my sailing adventures.
Wow, yeah, that's impressive. I mean, it's always one of those things you hear about people who, give everything up and go live on a boat or like go bike around, the country and things like that. I mean, how did you decide to do that?
So I am not. I am a sailor now, I guess, but I was not a sailor until I met my boyfriend, and he has sailing experience and has worked as a skipper in Europe, overseas, and then taught sailing in San Diego here. And we just kind of, we talked about it. And a big part of it actually was that where we are from in Santa Cruz, California, the housing market is sort of insane, as I imagine it probably is in LA as well.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. And we kind of looked at it and we were like, this seems impossible. We're never going to be able to afford a house here. What if we just bought a boat instead and lived on that? And so originally it was just a way to kind of get cheap housing. And then it kind of snowballed into, well, if we're going to have a boat, we might as well sail it somewhere. And then we kind of came up with this just sailing plan. And it was in the works for a long time. We started planning it probably like about 7 years ago, and then just, worked and saved everything until we were finally able to buy the boat and set sail about 2 years ago.
Wow, that's such a cool story. And have you gotten to leave the Americas yet? Have you gone across to Europe or Asia?
Not yet. So that's our next kind of big hop, is going to be across the Atlantic at the beginning of next year. So everything has to be really timed carefully around like hurricanes and stuff. So we're going to be hiding out in Panama for the rest of kind of this year. And then we'll spend the winter in the Caribbean. Once the hurricanes kind of die down, then we can kind of explore the Caribbean. And then kind of around this time next year, we'll be heading across the Atlantic to Europe.
And how long does that journey take by sailboat?
Across the Atlantic?
Yeah.
Probably about 2 weeks, give or take. It really depends, but I think it's sort of standard to be around 2 weeks.
Well, I don't think I could I could make that journey, but that's really cool. I mean,
yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. It's definitely, we have not done a long hop like that. We were going to cross the Pacific actually this year, and then plans kind of changed because we have a dog, and it just didn't make sense really to do that with her. But yeah, the Pacific is even, an even bigger kind of undertaking. It's like 3 weeks or something, or sometimes even a month. So yeah, I don't know. It'll be an experiment. We're kind of always just about like, let's see how this goes. Just like jumping into stuff. So yeah, hopefully it goes well.
Yeah, definitely. I'm glad you brought up your dog, because I can go ahead and go through the rounds we've got today.
Sure.
The first one is actually Canine Conundrum, which is going to be all around dogs. And then our second round is going to be Set Sail. So that one, obviously having to do with sailing and different parts of the sailboat and things like that. Mm-hmm. And then our last round is going to be What's That Series? So that's going to be looking at some sci-fi and fantasy book series, because that's the type of novels that you had mentioned.
Cool. I am so nervous that I'm not going to be able to answer these questions.
And it's always educational. You know, it's all for fun. So no pressure at all. No need to worry.
Right.
So we can go ahead and jump into our first round, and hopefully that'll help cool the nerves.
Okay.
So to start us off in our canine round, so for the first one, I've got a list of the top 5 most popular dog breeds in the US based on some 2022 data from the American Kennel Club.
Okay.
So you'll be trying to guess 3 out of those 5 most popular dogs.
Okay.
So yeah, go ahead and you can take some time to think about it and then see what you come up with.
Okay. It's got to be like golden retrievers. Probably got to be up there.
Yep, that's number 3.
Okay. That's number 3. Oh
Yeah.
man. Okay. I want to say like pit bull or Staffordshire Terrier, like something like that, just because there are a lot of them like in shelters, and I know a lot of people are rescuing these days. So
I think those were in the 6 to 10 range, but not quite in the top 5.
Okay. Oh boy, is it something like crazy, like?
Not something crazy, no.
How about like a pug? People like those. People are into pugs.
Pugs? Wait, what's the other name for a pug?
Sorry,
I was getting confused with the bulldog because they have that kind of similar facial shape.
Is bulldog on there?
Yes, yeah, bulldog is. So that's why I was like, oh, is pug like similar to a bulldog?
They sort of are in that they have the like squashed faces and the short noses, you know?
Yeah. So yeah, French bulldog was actually the number 1.
Oh, okay. French bulldog. I was actually gonna guess French bulldog because those are they're like super trendy.
Yeah, I think that recently, like in the last year or 2, has really shot up in popularity.
Yeah. Okay, do I get one more?
Yeah, let's go for one more.
Oh man, this is hard. Is it? I mean, maybe it's just like a Labrador.
Yeah, that's number 2.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so there's 1, 2, and 3.
All right, cool.
And then I'll go ahead and reveal 4 and 5. So that was German Shepherd and Poodles were 4 and 5.
Oh yeah, poodles, because they're allegedly hypoallergenic.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's one of the new hot things too. Everyone's got allergies.
Yeah, that makes sense. German Shepherds are cool. My boyfriend's mom has a German Shepherd, and it's a very sweet dog.
Oh yeah. Oh, what kind of dog did you say you have?
She's just a big mutt. She's a whole mess of things.
All right, awesome. Well, that was a good warm up here.
Cool, yeah.
So for our second canine question here, what Siberian Husky famously led the 1925 serum run to Nome, in which a team of sled dogs transported a serum for diphtheria to fight an epidemic? And a hint, there was a 1995 movie about this dog transporting the serum.
I don't think I've seen that movie. I want to see it though.
So it was actually Balto.
Oh, okay, yeah. I have seen
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I remembered it when I was like really young. And then it rang a bell. I was like, oh, Balto. I remember Balto.
Oh, yeah, I do not remember that was what that movie was about. You know, I don't know if I necessarily got that when I watched it a long time ago, or I just don't remember. I should watch that again.
Yeah, it was actually based on a real 1925 story about them transporting the serum, and I was like, oh, that's cool. I didn't know the backstory for that.
I know that. Cool.
All right, for number 3, American voice actor Don Messick is known as the original voice of what animated dog?
Oh boy. Okay, animated dogs. You got Scooby-Doo. You got Snoopy doesn't talk though. You got, oh boy, I'm completely blanking on cartoon dogs. Oh, Pluto, Goofy. Who else? All right, I'm gonna guess. Well, Pluto doesn't talk either, actually. Now that I think about it, I guess I'm gonna guess Goofy.
So you had it right. It was Scooby-Doo, the very first one you thought of.
Oh man. Okay.
But you know what? That's at least half credit because that's the first one you said. That was the first one that came to mind.
We'll take it.
All right, and then our last question for the canine round. In 1957, a dog named Laika became the first animal to orbit the Earth during a mission by what country?
Oh, I do know this. It's so sad.
Yeah, it is. It's a sad
really
story.
Tragic story. I believe it was Russia that said
it was, yeah, the Soviet Union, and then Laika died in space.
I know. God, so tragic.
I know. I was reading about that when I was looking at this question, and it was like, oh yeah, the Russians did plenty of animal testing before they sent humans into space, and I was like, oh, it's so sad to read.
Yeah.
But well done overall in the dogs round.
All right, cool. Thank you.
And we'll go ahead and jump into our sailing round. So for this round, I've split it up. The first 3 questions are kind of general, maybe like pop culture or history and things like that. And then for the second part, I've got some more like anatomy of the sailboat specific questions.
Okay.
So yeah, we'll start with the first one. So Sailing Yacht is a spin-off of what American reality TV show on Bravo?
Oh, is this that? Oh boy. Is this like Below Deck?
It is, yeah. Below Deck Sailing Yacht.
I haven't watched it, but okay. So when I told you that my boyfriend worked overseas as a skipper, basically worked in like that sort of environment, like a below deck environment.
Really?
Where
Wow. Okay.
it's this huge like party called Yacht Week, and people basically like pay to go just like sail around the islands of Croatia or like Greece or whatever. And my boyfriend's job was, to like skipper them around, and he said it was just bananas. Like,
just parties constantly, I'm sure, on the boat.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. He's like, by the end of the week, like everyone is sick. Like you don't want to be there anymore. Like it's not fun anymore. It's just too much partying. Like he did it for 2 years, and then he was like, I'm never going back.
And now he decided to, I guess it's much more like slow life, just with the 2 of you on the sailboat now, right?
Yes, it is a very different atmosphere.
Yeah.
For sure.
All right. For number 2, the knot unit of speed is derived from what maritime navigation tool that was used until the mid-1800s?
Oh boy, I don't know, but it's not. So I imagine it's like something to do with some kind of line or rope.
Yes, that's true.
Wow. Okay. I guess I don't know like a ton of like sailing history. You know what? If my boyfriend was here, he would totally know, but unfortunately he just went out. I don't know.
So it's actually the chip log or common log.
Huh.
So they would tie a rope to a log and throw it out the back of the boat, and then the amount of rope that moved through your hands would tell you the speed you were going.
Oh.
So that's kind of interesting. I was like, oh,
yeah.
That's where it comes from.
I was trying to picture in my head. I was like, I'm sure it must be that there's a rope in front or behind the boat somehow, but I couldn't like put together how that would tell you your speed. You know what I mean? That's interesting. Cool.
And then for our last kind of history question here, what Portuguese explorer's 1519 expedition was the first to successfully circumnavigate the globe?
Oh God, I know this.
That's a school question right there.
Oh God, it's been so long since high school. It's Magellan?
Yeah, Ferdinand Magellan. That's correct.
There we go. Okay.
So
that would have been really embarrassing if I hadn't done that.
Yeah, he actually, I think he died in the Philippines. They got in a skirmish with a native tribe there, and then his crew was the ones who actually finished circumnavigating back to Europe. But it was his expedition.
Huh. Good old Magellan.
Good old Magellan. Probably not that good by today's
I was
standards.
Gonna say, probably fully cancelable.
Oh yeah, as they all were at that time.
Yeah.
All right, so now we're gonna get over to our sailboat anatomy.
Okay.
So I've got 5 different descriptions of different parts.
Okay.
So the first one is the front pointy part of the hull.
All right, so it's either going to be the bow, which is the front of the boat, or possibly the prow, which is like the actual pointy part.
Okay, yeah, no, I meant the general bow, so not quite as specific.
Okay.
But
Gotcha.
What about
So,
the
bow.
the bow?
Okay.
What about the right side of the hull?
That is the starboard side.
That is correct. I don't know how people keep starboard versus port correct, but I was like, I'm just going to throw in the right side of the hull.
So my grandma used to have a saying for it. She's from England. I'm actually from England, but my grandma was English, and so they drink port in England after like a big meal. And my grandma would always remember the sides of the boat as there's always a little port left after the meal, and port is the left hand side of the boat. So if you can remember that, then you know port is left and starboard is right.
Oh, nice. Okay. Yeah, I like that. I'll try to use that one.
In case you ever need to use that in your life ever again.
All right, for our third one. So this is the general name for all of the lines, cables, and hardware that attaches the sails to the mast.
I want to say it's the running rigging.
Yeah, so just rigging is what I was looking for, but I saw there was a couple different types of rigging, so I'm sure yours is even more specific.
Typically, I would say that the running rigging is like the lines and stuff, and then the standing rigging is like the stays and stuff that actually sort of like keeps the mast attached to the boat, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
All right, and then this one is the backside of the sail running from the top to the bottom.
Okay, hang on a sec, because I always get these confused. Okay. You got your clue. Is it the clue? I know that's the back corner.
What I saw was actually leech for the backside of the sail.
Yes, that's what it is.
Okay. And then I also have the opposite, so the front side of the sail running from top to bottom.
I would say maybe the luff.
Yes, luff is what I had.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay,
Cool.
Great. Yeah, that was really good. Okay, so you know your sailing stuff, which if you're gonna cross the Atlantic, it's
Thank God.
probably good to know. Awesome. Yeah, and then we can go ahead and jump into our third round. So before we jump into that, what's your overall connection? You said you had written a couple of books. So what kind of books have you written?
So I have kind of just released a series of, it's young adult dystopian fiction. So, but it's all kind of based at sea, and it's set in this like post-apocalyptic water world where climate change and pandemics have basically ruined society. The only way to get around is by sailing, because most of the world is underwater. And the main story is that there's these two young people who are forced to sail across an ocean together. One of them is looking for her brother, who she thought was dead. The other one is sort of her best friend, who gets kind of swept up in the whole trip. And they, along the way, they kind of fight pirates, and they rescue a dog, and they uncover secrets about this biotech corporation that kind of runs the world. Hijinks and hilarity ensue.
Awesome. Yeah, I can definitely see all the different aspects of what you've told me about your life kind of fitting into the book there too, like the dog and the sailing, obviously, and everything. So that's cool.
It is very much based on my life and my sailing adventures. I wrote most of it actually on my phone in the cockpit of the boat,
Okay.
In the middle of the night while I was on watch, sailing down the coast. So 2 or 3 in the morning, just writing chapters. So there's 5 books in the series, and you can get them all on Amazon if anyone is curious and wants to check them out.
Yeah, I will definitely throw a link down to the books in the show notes as well if anyone wants to check it out.
Awesome.
All right, so for our third round, we've got What's That Series? So for this one, the answer to each question is going to be the name of a fantasy or sci-fi book series.
Okay.
So we can go ahead and start with number 1. So the first novel in this series by Orson Scott Card was released in 1985 and portrayed a global military force training young children to repel an alien invasion.
Oh, it's Ender's Game?
Yeah, that's correct. That's Ender's Game.
I love that book. I got really into that when I started working out, and I started listening to audiobooks, and that was one of the first audiobooks I ever listened to. And really
nice. Have you listened to the whole series? I think he has several books.
I have. I don't remember super well. It was a long time ago that I listened to these. It was many years ago that I really first started getting into audiobooks. So I don't remember them super well, but I remember that it was the only reason I would go to the gym.
Just to listen to audiobooks.
An excuse to listen to that audiobook, yeah.
All right, for number 2, the author of this series is often referred to as the father of high fantasy. The first novel was released in 1954 and was named Britain's best-loved novel of all time in a 2003 BBC poll.
I'm gonna assume it's probably Tolkien and the Lord of the Rings / The Hobbit.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, so Lord of the Rings is actually I think it was the Fellowship of the Ring, the first novel that was voted as the best loved of all time.
Nice. Yeah, well, it is a great book.
It is. Yeah. I actually never read them, but I know the movies were amazing, so I'll take everyone's word for it.
Yeah. Oh, the books are great. They have all the songs and stuff, and the books are definitely different from the movies. I think they're both good, in different ways. I'm not a person who's all snobby and the books are so much better.
Except for The Hobbit. That one I know the movies were not as good.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
But yeah, Lord of the Rings movies, Peter Jackson did a great job.
Oh man, those movies were I think it was just right at the right time in my life when they came out, and I was obsessed with them for years.
Yeah, we didn't really have anything to in that time in the early 2000s. There wasn't really much to compare it to.
Yeah.
All right, for number 3, this dystopian book series depicted an annual battle royale deathmatch. The first novel was released in 2008.
Hunger Games.
Yeah, that's correct. Were you a big fan?
I was, yes. It was when I first started writing this series, I was kind of like, I would like to write something like the Hunger Games. So yeah, there was definitely a big influence.
Oh, awesome.
I mean, my book it ended up not really being anything like the Hunger Games, except that it's dystopian. But kind of like if the Hunger Games had more pirates in it.
Okay. We always needed more pirates than Hunger Games anyway, so.
Totally.
All right, for number 4, this fantasy book series is the best-selling book series in history with over 600 million copies sold, and the first novel was released in 1997.
Oh, the best-selling book series of history, and it's a fantasy series. Is it possibly like Game of Thrones? That seems too early for Game of Thrones. Best-selling fantasy book series of all time. It's gonna be something really obvious that I'm like not getting. I don't know.
It's actually Harry Potter.
Oh, of course. Christ.
It's like, yes, it is. It is something well known.
Totally obvious. Yes. Yep. That was another book that, like, I mean, that whole series, because it came out like, I was 11 and he was 11, and then every year the book came out, and like I can track my whole childhood, like growing up through my adolescence.
And then you're always just waiting for that letter to get to your house. Like, when am I going to get into Hogwarts?
Oh, I know. I'm still waiting.
Still waiting. We're never too old.
Yeah.
All right, and then our 5th and final question. So the first novel of this sci-fi book series by Frank Herbert was released in 1965 and portrays a future where a life-extending drug known as the spice has been discovered.
We just watched this movie last night, actually. It is Dune.
Oh, wow. How topical.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, Dune is correct. And I think the second part of the movie is coming out in a couple of months.
Sweet. Yeah. Very, I loved the soundtrack. I keep meaning to look this up, but I think the soundtrack was maybe Angelique Kidjo.
Okay.
And she's just like a phenomenal French-African singer, and I love her voice.
Oh, cool. Okay.
You just reminded me that I need to look that up. I may have just lied. Don't take my word for that. But.
TBD. We'll have to look into that one later. Well, that is going to conclude our 3 rounds. I think you did really well overall.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, that was not so bad.
Yeah, that was good. I think you did better than the average guest, so definitely feel good about that.
All right. Cool. I do.
Cool. Well, what was the name of your book series again, just so people can find it?
The series is called Thalassic, and book 1 is called Salt.
Okay.
And you can find all the books on Amazon. There are paperbacks and ebooks available, and there's actually going to be audiobooks soon. I just finished recording all the audio for the audiobooks. Yeah, you can go get them and read them and hopefully enjoy them.
Awesome. And then what's next? Are you working on any other books or any other projects?
Yeah, so I'm actually currently about halfway through book 1 of a new fantasy series. So I'm writing a kind of like a contemporary fantasy series. It's young adult, again, set in San Diego, and also sort of boat themed. Basically a girl who was born at sea to kind of cruiser parents like my boyfriend and I. Is forced to move back to San Diego, and then finds herself having to go back to an American high school and reintegrate, and she discovers that a lot of the kids at the school are magic, and so then from there things progress. So yeah, that's what I'm working on at the moment, and then I will be releasing, so there's 5 books in the series that's already out, and I'm going to be releasing probably 3 more within the next year. So that's going to be kind of like an ongoing series that continues for as long as people keep reading it, I guess.
Awesome. And then just popping into my mind, what are the kind of the challenges of being an author while on a boat? Does that add some extra challenges?
Yeah, it's definitely hard. I'm coming up to a point right now. So right now I'm in California visiting some family, and I've been able to get a lot of stuff done here. I have a lot of fans on TikTok. So TikTok is weirdly a great place for authors to be. There's a lot of people who like to read on TikTok. I have a lot of fans on TikTok who are asking for signed paperbacks of my books. And I can't mail them like from Panama. There's just no way that can work. So right now I'm trying to figure out a way to like get all these books signed and shipped before I leave California and go back to the boat. So yeah, doing stuff like that, like physical in-person stuff. Like I can't really go to a lot of like author conventions and that kind of thing because I'm just like not in the country, which is definitely challenging. When we first started this voyage, we did not have any internet on the boat. We have since got Starlink, so I can now like get online more regularly, but that was definitely challenging for a while. But yeah, it's also, there's also humongous benefits to it as well. Mostly that our lifestyle is very affordable. We don't pay mortgage and we don't pay rent. Like we had to invest in the initial cost of the boat up front, but I'm able to kind of keep us financially floating with part-time work, and then I get to spend a lot of time on writing fiction, which is just like incredible. You like as an author, I don't think a lot of authors necessarily get to spend enough time on their work, and I feel like incredibly grateful that I get the time that I do to work on it. So, there's upsides and downsides to everything.
Yeah, definitely. That's a really cool perspective. Thank you, and thanks again for coming on. It's been great fun having you.
Thanks for having me. This was really fun. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and again, I'll leave links to all of Liz's books down in the show notes, so make sure to go check those out. That is going to conclude this week's episode of Trivia Cast. Thank you once again to Liz for coming on, and I will see you all next time.